Each of these four mindsets has a distinctive skill set, and we've talked about this. The practitioner is really, really strong in the practice. These are the big old muscles they have. The perfectionist is the artist. Man, oftentimes they were the best. They had the best hands in their class. I hear them say that all the time. The Pitlor oftentimes falls into a high analysis. I call it analysis paralysis. They're very, very high fact finders. They like to do stuff themselves. They don't like to delegate. And that's not a bad thing. It just doesn't allow you to move the needle on the big things you need to do to get your practice going. Each skill set is powerful in its own way. And the CEO's job is to master the balance between them and figure out what they need to do to grow the practice. So the question I would ask you all tonight, can you afford not to work on your practice tomorrow? What's the cost of not working on your practice? I think you should quantify that. If you have a goal of doing 5 million or 2 million, whatever the number is this year or next year, as it may be, and that's that 20% growth scenario, the cost of not working on your practice to figure out how you're going to go from 4 to 5 million is $1 million. So $1 million is the cost. If you don't work on your practice, you're not going to get that $1 million. And in fact, what we often see is when you don't work on your practice, you're actually going to go backwards. You're going to recede. You're going to go from 4 to 3.8 to 3.6 to 3.3. And we see this all the time. Colin, I was doing 2.5 million back in 2005. And then the recession hit, and then this hit, and I never recovered. And man, by 2015, I was only back to 1.8 million. And there's this whole story that comes with it. But oftentimes it comes down to they came out of school. This is what I think. They came out of school. They were full of innovation, full of drive, and they built this amazing practice. And then they kind of got comfortable, and they kind of just rode it out. And when the recession hit, they didn't adapt. And when COVID hit, they didn't pivot. And then all of a sudden they had 2.5 million, and now they're down to 1.5 million. And that's tough. That's really, really tough.
Yeah.
And getting unlocked. Go ahead, David.
Colin, I think you're hitting on something important with that comfort. There's a saying, when the pain in my business or life exceeds the pain of change, then I will finally change my business or life. There's no avoiding it. The change that we have to create, the improvement that we have to create, like Colin said, within the weaknesses, it's not easy. It is painful, especially because it's in areas where we lack competence. So we struggle with it. It doesn't come as naturally, potentially. Whatever the reason is, we need to recognize that pain is there. But the most important thing is that we allow ourselves to get fully clear on the pain that our practice and our own life is experiencing because of those problems, and the full clarity on that and getting out of the avoidance of it is usually the key trigger point that will get us into finally getting in and solving it. But that comfort, I mean, you want to talk about good is the enemy of great. That comfort level right there keeps us from getting to that great level, because we become satiated with the good.
Yep. Oh yeah. All the time. So if you've got a notepad and you've written down your January and February problems, and you've been writing down some of the things I've asked you to write down, I think you ought to write down what's the cost of not working on your practice right now. Don't let the hair on fire busyness numb you to the real problems that still exist in your practice. Let's jump in here and talk about the skill sets. We talked about the mindsets. Let's move quickly through the skill sets. I've already talked about this a lot. The practitioner is the master of the clinical side. Busy clinician, roller skates volume practice. And again, very, very successful. All of these quadrants are successful in their own way. The practitioner oftentimes, because wealth is one of the success factors in our American society, the practitioner looks very successful, and he is by all standard measures. The problem of the curse of the practitioner is the time, right? The perfectionist, master of the art of dentistry, great clinician, takes pride in doing the work. Oh, sorry, I skipped. Takes pride in being perfect. Delegation is sometimes the curse, the crutch. Collections are often lower. The question to ask is, what am I not teaching my team to do and why? What am I not teaching my team to do and why? Is often a great question for the perfectionist to ask themselves. The Pitlor, they often get stuck making big decisions. They never feel like they have all the information needed. They have oftentimes a high fear of failure. And again, the fear of failure, we don't always think to ourselves, oh God, what if I fail? That's usually not what we say in our own heads, right? We're just scared something's not going to work. We can't see it working, so we're not going to do it. We don't understand how it's going to work, so we don't move ahead. And many, many, many missed opportunities. It's kind of like the old Michael Jordan quote. Michael Jordan was entrusted to take 900 something shots at the buzzer to win the game. And he missed over half of them. But if he hadn't taken the shots, he couldn't have won the other half of the games. And that's where these missed opportunities come from. The Pitlor rarely makes an uncalculated move until they have all the facts and all the details. But because that threshold is so high, they often miss a huge amount of opportunity in the process. You miss 100% of the pitches you don't swing at. And the CEO, often the CEO has a level of business savvy. They oftentimes have successful single locations. But the difficulty is in creating consistent success at multiple locations, or in growing that single location to higher levels, right? And the question to ask themselves is, how am I going to install repeatable systems and processes to grow and scale? How do I master the balance between everything else going on in the practice so that I can achieve our goals, so that I can grow, my team can grow, we can serve more patients in our community, we can give back to our community, I can have more time with my family. All of this stuff, it's once you get in there and you start creating more time and more money, everybody that's involved in the process grows. So